how old she was at the end. But that's what's brilliant about it, Jane, is her range.
Well, let's look at the...
There's a reason Terms of Endearment still finds the softest part of our hearts. We remember Aurora begging for Emma's shot, or Emma saying goodbye to her boys with a tired smile she could barely hold. Back when movies about mothers and daughters weren't just films, they were events. The kind you saw with your closest women passing tissues down the row because every one of you was holding something you hadn't said out loud. But the women making it weren't untouched by the raw, messy love they were portraying. Shirley MacLaine was carrying decades of waiting for Hollywood to take her seriously. Deborah Winger was pouring her entire emotional life into a role that asked her to age, unravel, and surrender. And director James L. Brooks was terrified that mixing laughter and grief would offend audiences. But he also suspected real life worked exactly that way. If you found permission to cry and feel with this film, you were right to do so. Here are 20 expanded, emotionally grounded truths about the tears this film has earned for 40 years. Fact number 1. Shirley MacLaine built the elegant Aurora out of real women who used glamour as armor against heartbreak. MacLaine has said Aurora wasn't just a character. She was incredibly familiar. She'd known women who used meticulous elegance, strict rules, and almost aggressive precision to hold themselves together when their lives felt wildly out of control. She described these women as those who perform motherhood, not because they were insincere, but because vulnerability felt far too dangerous to let anyone see. That understanding shaped Aurora's every stiff posture and every clipped reprimand. For MacLaine, Aurora's control wasn't a choice of vanity. It was a choice of survival, a feeling many women of that generation understood intimately. Fact number 2. Deborah Winger lived so fully inside the character of Emma that the cast and crew often forgot she was acting. Winger stayed emotionally tethered to Emma, even when the camera wasn't rolling. This didn't mean dramatic outbursts. It meant subtle, deeply felt things. She would walk slower as Emma's energy began to fade, touch props the way a truly tired mother would, and sometimes stay in Emma's clothes during breaks because the sudden change felt too jarring. Crew members described her as carrying Emma with her, especially during the intensely difficult illness scenes. Her devotion made her exhaustion on-screen feel earned and lived in, rather than simply performed. Fact number 3. The famous crib-checking scene came from a primal fear Shirley MacLaine knew in her bones as a mother. MacLaine later explained that Aurora's frantic rush to the crib wasn't rehearsed to be hysterical or theatrical. It was rooted in a memory shared by almost every mother she knew. Those terrifying moments when a parent stares into a crib that is too silent and panic rises like a sudden, sickening wave. She said the raw, visceral fear in that moment hit without acting, because every mother she knew had experienced that flash of terror. It is one of the very first moments in the film where Aurora's perfect, lifelong polish cracks, revealing the frightened, desperate mother underneath. Fact number 4. The tension between MacLaine and Winger came from their completely different approaches, but it gave the film its electricity. Both actresses later acknowledged there were genuine clashes between them on set. Winger worked purely from raw instinct and moment-to-moment emotion, while MacLaine worked from technique, control, and years of experience. But both women also described a deeper truth. They respected each other's immense talent, even when they couldn't understand the other's process. Instead of weakening the film, that difference mirrored the explosive dynamic between Aurora and Emma. Two women who love fiercely but constantly clash because they are built from incompatible emotional languages. Fact number 5. MacLaine credited Winger's deeply raw performance with pushing her to be braver than she had been in years. MacLaine said Winger's absolute rawness, her refusal to play Emma in any kind of polished or heroic way, challenged MacLaine to let Aurora unravel too. Winger shook her out of her long-held comfort zone. That's why Aurora's emotional journey in the film feels so genuine, not theatrical. It feels like a woman learning, grudgingly and painfully, to let people see her bleed and admit that she also needed help. Fact number 6. Jack Nicholson based the charming Garrett Breedlove not on swagger, but on profound, quiet loneliness. Though Garrett is written as a charming, washed-up astronaut, Nicholson approached the character as a man terrified of aging and, most painfully, of being forgotten. He said he wanted Garrett to feel like someone who had lived an entire life in the public eye and suddenly didn't know where to put himself now that the applause had finally stopped. This sensitive decision is why his moments with Aurora feel so unexpectedly tender and real. It is two profoundly lonely people realizing with great surprise that they are not invisible after all. Fact number 7. The famous beach scene was partly improvised, and Shirley MacLaine's surprise and laughter were completely real. When Garrett grabs Aurora's hand and slides it under his shirt on the beach, Nicholson added a spontaneous, unexpected physical move that wasn't in the script. MacLaine's startled laugh and slight recoil were not acting. They were genuine surprise. Director James L. Brooks instantly kept the moment because it revealed something both actors instinctively understood. Real intimacy often begins with awkwardness, surprise, and a nervous laugh. Fact number 8. Deborah Winger carried Emma's physical decline with a precision that came from deep research, not from melodrama. Winger reportedly studied how a terminal illness subtly alters the body. She focused on the small, heartbreaking changes, posture tightening, eyes dulling, and breath becoming shorter. She didn't want Emma's cancer arc to feel Hollywood sick. She wanted it to look like someone trying desperately to stay herself, while her own body cruelly betrayed her. Many nurses later praised how true her physicality felt to the reality of actual cancer patients. Fact number 9. The deeply moving family scenes worked because the child actors genuinely adored and trusted Deborah Winger. Winger made sure to spend real, unstructured time with the boys playing her sons. She talked with them, let them hang around her between takes, and didn't treat them as mere props in the emotional scenes, but as real kids she genuinely cared about. That fundamental emotional trust is why the hospital goodbye scene lands with such overwhelming, gut-wrenching force. Those children authentically believed she loved them and felt her pain at leaving. Fact number 10. Shirley MacLaine said Aurora's devastating breakdown at the nurse's station was the hardest emotional moment of her entire career. This scene required her to move completely beyond Aurora's lifelong armor and show a mother who had utterly lost her ability to control the world or even her own feelings. MacLaine said the moment was not about dramatic rage, but about pure, crushing helplessness. That raw, animalistic instinct, the one every mother feels when she knows she absolutely cannot save her child, is what made the scene an iconic depiction of parental grief. Fact 111. The film marked a profound turning point for Shirley MacLaine, who had waited decades for Hollywood to take her seriously. MacLaine had been working since the 1950s, often either typecast or simply dismissed for her unconventional path. Terms of Endearment was the one role where people finally saw the full, complex emotional range she had been carrying for years. Her Academy Award wasn't just a win for the role she played, it was a lifetime of being overlooked finally, publicly being acknowledged and honored. Fact number 12. Deborah Winger saw Emma's quiet final line, "I know you love me," as the emotional thesis of the whole film. Winger felt the line was necessary because dying parents rarely get the chance to reassure their children that their love was enough and that their own impending absence wasn't the child's fault. She believed that giving children that fundamental comfort is one of the most important, freeing gifts a parent can leave. She played the line with almost no breath, wanting it to feel like the last precious bit of strength Emma had, used entirely to free her son from guilt. Fact 13. Director James L. Brooks feared audiences would reject the film's blend of laughter and cancer until he saw people crying and laughing at once. Brooks has often shared that the film's unique, often jarring balance wasn't calculated or planned. It came from simply observing how families actually cope with crisis, laughing at the absurdity of life even while enduring profound grief. When he saw test audiences simultaneously do both, Laughing through their tears, he realized the movie had finally found its truest, most honest voice. Fact Navrak 14. The enduring mother-daughter love in the film resonated partly because neither actress chose to play the role sweet. Winger absolutely refused to soften Emma's deep frustration, moments of selfishness, or raw fear. McClane likewise refused to hide Aurora's intense controlling tendencies. They didn't play idealized, perfect mother and daughter archetypes. They played two complex women doing their messy best with what they had. That fierce authenticity is why women who've had complicated, real relationships with their own mothers see themselves so clearly in this film. Fact then from her 15, Deborah Winger approached Emma's affair not as simple betrayal, but as a woman desperate to feel wanted and seen again. Winger explained in an interview years later that Emma doesn't cheat out of malice or casual disregard. She cheats because she is utterly exhausted, deeply neglected by her husband, and trying desperately to remember who she was before she was completely swallowed up by motherhood. Winger wanted the audience to understand Emma's complicated humanity and vulnerability rather than simply judging her mistakes. It's a painful truth that many women understood. Fact the Frogger 16. Nicholson and McClane built a deep professional friendship based on trust and respect, not on any off-screen flirtation. Despite the public speculation at the time, both actors have repeatedly emphasized that they never had an off-screen romantic relationship. What they did build was immense professional trust. McClane once said Nicholson made her feel safe to be ridiculous. That safety allowed Aurora, for the very first time in her life, to loosen her grip and be truly vulnerable. Fact Thurger 17. The film's difficult hospital scenes felt so real because both actresses drew on personal, quiet experience with loss. Both McClane and Winger had personally seen people they loved go through the slow, draining process of illness and loss. Because of this, neither of them approached the terminal scenes with theatricality or over-the-top drama. They approached them with a quiet simplicity and raw truth, the kind you only bring when you genuinely know what those hospital hallways look like in real life. Fact Deborah 18. Winger said that playing Emma's final journey profoundly changed the way she herself understood motherhood. She wasn't a mother at the time, but she said playing Emma taught her that motherhood is actually a long, painful process of letting go of expectations, letting go of control, and ultimately letting go of life itself while praying your children carry something good from you forward. This gave her performance a deep wisdom that transcended her own current life experience. Fact number 19. Shirley MacLaine called the final scenes emotionally nuclear, but trusted director James L. Brooks to protect the actors completely. She explained that filming those heart-wrenching final scenes required an emotional exposure she rarely allowed on camera. Brooks shielded the set, keeping it quiet, small, and respectful, protecting their dignity in their deepest moments of vulnerability. That safety and quiet reverence is a large part of why the final performances feel so utterly unguarded and real. Fact Seymour 20. The film became a shared national catharsis for millions of women, including the women who made it. MacLaine later implied that playing Aurora helped her resolve old, complicated emotions she had been carrying for decades. Winger has said Emma remains one of the roles she is proudest of because the emotional honesty of the journey mattered so profoundly to people. They weren't just performing grief for the camera, they were offering a profound, quiet place for audiences to finally put their own grief and complicated love. They weren't living easy lives when they made terms of endearment. MacLaine was carrying a career's worth of frustration and the weight of high expectations. Winger was carrying a character's entire devastating emotional life. Nicholson was channeling the fear of aging and invisibility. And Brooks was carrying the heavy weight of telling a story that moved between laughter and death without ever lying about either. And yet, from all that heaviness, they made something that still feels intimate and true 40 years later. A film women return to not because it's sad, but because it tells the difficult truth. Love is messy. Mothers and daughters will collide. Forgiveness often comes late, and genuine joy doesn't erase grief. If you still cry at Emma's last scene, or still catch your breath when Aurora finally breaks, it doesn't mean you're holding on to something outdated. It means you're responding to a film made with unusual honesty by people who genuinely understood how fragile and precious love is. You're not alone in loving this. Millions felt the same, including the brave women who lived it on screen.